If I may have your attention, my name is Michael Park, and I have the privilege of serving as your MC for today's event. I'd like to take this moment to welcome you all to Duluth, Georgia, for the 2023 Korean War Armistice Day commemoration and wreath-laying ceremony. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us today to commemorate this very special event. As many of you know, 2023 marks a very special year in the Korea-US relationship and alliance. First, it marks the 120th year anniversary of the first Korean immigrants to the United States. And second, it marks the 70th year anniversary of the Korean War Armistice. At this time, to kick off our ceremonies and begin them, I'd like to invite Ms. Christine Jung, soprano, up to the front, and she's going to perform the national anthems of the Republic of Korea and the United States of America. Georgia chapter to come up to the front and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
And more importantly, the servicemen and women we serve in both countries. And we do this in the honor of all who have served, and especially our veterans. Please join me as we pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And at this time, I'd like to invite Reverend William Stuba of the Ray Davis Chapter Korean War Vets Association for the invocation.
Will you join your heart along with mine as I pray? Almighty God, let us not forget. May we always remember the sacrifices of those who fought for our freedom and that of others that they never knew. We shall not forget the POWs and the MIAs who remain unaccounted for until they are returned home to their loved ones. The bravery, tenacity, and selflessness of our veterans liberated the oppressed, brought peace and prosperity to a freedom-loving people, and forged unshakable bonds with the Republic of Korea. May the armistice one day bring everlasting peace to all. Bless the food we are to share. Let us always be thankful for the blessings of life. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Stuba. Now at this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Jae Eun, board member of the American Korean Friendship Society, to come to the front to recognize Korean War veterans who are able to join us today.
Good morning, everyone. This is my great honor and pleasure to introduce our heroes individually. Let me call all of your individual name one by one. So if you can, please stand up for a second. Okay, Urban Rump. Would you please stand up second? And Norman Board. Thank you. Reverend Staff. Okay. Gordon Sherman. Thank you. Richard Austin. Richard Austin, thank you. Stan Fisher. Thank you. Thomas Gump. Thomas Gump. Okay, thank you. Jim Adams. Beryl Whitney. Thank you. Todd Marbles. Thank you. And last, Bob Dylan. Thank you. Have I? Yes, have I missed? Jim Eden. Oh, would you please stand up a second? Okay, I'm sorry. I will not anyone else? Yes. John Lee. Oh, John Lee. Thank you. John Lee. Okay, you are really our heroes. And ladies and gentlemen, please let us, our heroes, the highest praise with the biggest hands, please.
This time, I'd like to invite Mr. Sonny Park, President of the American Korean Friendship Society, our host for today. So please give Mr. Park a warm round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. It's really warm, but nothing compared to what you Korean War veterans experience in Korea. Korea what is cold or either very hot and humid, and then you endured that weather and very gratefully. And then I still remember those days when I was a little boy and chasing around the GIs, you guys, and then they're having fun to follow you around, but it was hot. I was in Washington, D.C. yesterday. We had a celebration, commemoration for the Armistice Day signing day yesterday, 5 o'clock in the afternoon at the Washington Mall was 97 degrees. It was pretty hot. And it was a great idea to bring this meeting to inside, the wreath laying ceremony is inside. This is actually fourth location. If you remember, the first location was right outside that state capitol building at the lawn, and there was a hot sun. You could do it because you were young then. That was about 1991, so what is it? 30 years ago, 32 years ago. And then we moved to, it was too hot. As you're getting old, I'm getting old, we moved to inside the state capitol for about 11 years inside. And then a lot of Korean War veterans get the complaint about the steps is too much, so we don't want to walk around the steps, the Capitol building. Well, we moved to Korean Association of Greater Atlanta. That fortunately we have a good community center there, so we moved there for about 6 years. Now, a survey with Korean War veterans, with Judy's there's a suggestion, we moved to inside of 1818 Club. This is luxurious the place in Gwinnett County so far that I know that we have a place. We found this, and we're gonna have a wreath laying, and then we add this year we add the MIN table for MIN and then POW. So this is something new and new location. So we're gonna treat you the first class in Gwinnett County or DeKalb County, and then this is symbolic of that how we want to treat, how we want to thank you for the sacrifices you took during that miserable war. You heard before, and I want to say one more time, I was 8 years old during the Korean War, and we, myself, and two of the kids, two boys playing the creek side, we were barefoot, we didn't have shoes. And then we found out that the fighter jet shot down, and all of a sudden we hear thunder coming down, this tail twisting at I think it's a Mustang. One of the fighters got shot down and then coming down to the valley where we were playing. It was not that far, maybe less than a mile. So we all, three boys, ran up there in barefoot and then checked if we could do anything. No. All we saw was a piece of bodies of the flesh. And then I still imprinted in my brain that 45 pistol, the handgun, was bended 90 degrees. I never see the gun bended that much. And then dangling with the soldiers, the airmen, the pilot's intestine. It was a horrible scene. For a young boy, we saw so many bodies, dead bodies, from Koreans, obviously, and then Americans, and then
20 soldiers from 21 other countries to the United Nations. I didn't realize, though, how precious that death was until later. I realized what really means of freedom. I can talk. And during the communist time, you heard me say this before. During the communist time, we had to report to the community center in the morning and evening, every day, to tell them I'm still here. And then you need to have visa or permission to visit your cousin in the next county. That's a communism. I'm enjoying all this freedom. South Koreans, over 50 million South Koreans enjoying the freedom. Now how? You heard that many times. Freedom is not free. You pay for it. 35,645 American soldiers who took supreme sacrifices and during the war paid the price. And there are over 8,000 soldiers still now back at it. Every time we think about them, it's heartbreaking. They are somewhere, but many of them are in heaven. We're going to remember, we're at this table, MIA, POW. This is important. However, it's all paid for. Yesterday we celebrated the prosperous of South Korea. Not, you didn't only bring freedom to Korean people, but prosperous. This country, this people worked so diligently last 70 years, and then see what happened. They built the world's top 10 strongest economy. What is that? It's important. However, Korean people, I remember those, and they even teach at the schools, the classrooms. They talk about what American soldiers did during the Korean War, how that happened, and we're very proud that the alliance is still strong, going strong and counting. I am very happy to see all of you this morning. Every time I invite you, and then meet you here, and I feel great and sad because I miss every year I have this event. They're missing. Some people are not here. I miss Bob McCulley. He was running all over town and worked so hard. I miss General Raymond Davis. They're gone. So a number of our Korean veterans reducing. This is the sad part. But you are strong, you're fighters. And I'm glad the Korean people, on behalf of Korean Americans in the United States, American Korean Friendship Society hosts a little dinner, hosts a little lunch. And I have another opportunity to thank you. And we're going to present wreath. This is a record-breaking number of wreaths today. So this year is remarkable. Today, we have a special guest here. Now I want to point out the one person that we have. Some of you already met, but new Consul General just arrived, and then Mr. Seo-sang-pyo, Ambassador Seo-sang-pyo is here with us today the first time. Would you please stand and recognize? Thank you very much. And then by all means, we need to recognize the Korean soldiers fought in Korean War. John Lee is one of them. And we are such an honor to have John Lee. Mr. John Lee is just sitting here with us. And his health is great, it looked great, fabulous. And he was actually chosen reservoir during that tough time. This is such a wonderful to have that person like John Lee living in the same town I live. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Mr. John Lee and Mrs. John Lee. Thank you so much. So little housekeeping item. When we have a wreath laying program comes up, all the representatives of each organization can be one or two. Please come, and then we are not going to bring the wreath from outside or inside, but we already placed here. So stand in front of your organization wreath, and then when the micro park that our MC announced, and then touch the wreath, and then moment of silence. That's how we're going to handle today's wreath laying ceremony. But not like our past years, we're going to make it simple. So I think this is the best way to do it. So we have so many, I'm so happy that a lot of Korean Americans in town really wants to. We could have 3 more, but I told them we don't have enough space, so they're going to bring it next year. So please understand. Thank you so much and welcome again. Bye-bye.
It gives me great pleasure to invite the Honorable Sang Pyo-seo, the Consul General of the Republic of Korea, up to the podium for special remarks. Please give him a warm round of applause.
Mr. Soniver, President of American-Korean Friendship Society, General Larry Ellis, former commander of U.S. Army Forces Command, Mr. Terry Miller, Georgia Chapter President of Korean Defense Veterans Association, Mr. Andrew Hong, President of Federation of Korean Associations in Southeastern U.S., and Mr. Simon Lee, President of Korean American Association of Greater Atlanta, and Korean War Veterans, and all the distinguished guests. Very good morning. I'm honored to be invited here today to make remarks in this meaningful and important event commemorating Korean War Armistice Day, on occasion that allows us to pay respect to those who made tremendous sacrifices for defending democracy. This year, as the convener already told us, this year marks the 70th anniversary of alliance between Korea and the United States, and at the same time, 70 years of Korean War Armistice. So the Korean government attaches much more importance in honoring the sacrifices of Korean and American women and men during the Korean War. President Yoon, during his visit to U.S. in April, he visited the Korean War Veterans Memorial with President Biden. And yesterday, President Yoon again commemorated the Korean War Armistice Day in Busan City, Korea, saying today's Korea stands on the sacrifice, dedication, and blood-stained uniforms of the UN forces headed by the United States. I myself, as a new Consul General here in Atlanta, began my term with paying my respect at the commemorative monument of the Korean War in downtown. The day before yesterday, as you know, the White House issued an annual proclamation on National Korean War Veterans Armistice Day. In the proclamations, President Biden called upon us to observe the day with appropriate ceremonies and activities that honor and give thanks to our distinguished Korean War veterans. In this sense, I'm deeply grateful to Soniva and the members of American Korean Friendship Society for their dedicated effort to organize this event and to put up the billboard advertisement in the city such as New York and LA, showing in Atlanta, as well thanking to Korean War veterans. As President Yoon mentioned, the prosperity and stability that Koreans enjoy today would not be possible without the sacrifices of the Korean War veterans. They bravely fought for the shared beliefs of our two countries, freedom and democracy. Thanks to the veterans, now Korea and the United States have forged an unbreakable bond and globally upholding democratic values together. I once again express my gratitude to the Korean War veterans who are present today, and those who are not physically absent, and only as Soniva told us that symbolized at the MIA table over there. But still, they remain with us in spirit. Finally, I have brought a humble wish for today's ceremony, and as a token of the deep gratitude of the Korean government. Thank you.
Thank you, Consul General So. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Andrew Hong, President of the Korean Association's Southeastern U.S., to the podium for special remarks.
I'm very honored to be here to celebrate 70th anniversary of Korean War Armistice Day with brave young Korean veterans. Thanks to your service and sacrifice and Koreans' can-do attitude, South Korea became one of the strongest economy with successful democratic political system. How proud you are. Please give them big hand. Yeah, we will do remember, freedom is not free. And also, your service and sacrifice will be remembered in our mind forever. Thank you so much, and stay cool in this summer and stay forever with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hong, for your kind remarks. I'd now like to invite Mr. Simon Lee, President of the Korean American Association of Greater Atlanta, to the podium for his special remarks. Please give him a warm round of applause.
Hello everyone. I am Simon Lee, the President of the Korean Association Greater Atlanta, and thank you for inviting me to this precious event. You Korean Americans are grateful for being able to protect our country with the United States and the United Nations during the war. When our country was suffering from communist aggression. Thank you, your courage and fighting spirit today, and the Republic of Korea enjoy freedom and peace, and democracy and economic success. Next page. The Korea-US alliance, which was forged in blood, can we much more? We Korean American will take the lead and cooperate to the soul. The United States in our second home, and we are both proud Koreans and Americans. We want to promote the friendship and cooperate between the two countries. Thank you for having us here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. At this time, it gives me pleasure to invite the Honorable Michael Redd, Georgia State Senate USROK Friendship Caucus, to the podium for his remarks.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing today? I want to send greetings to all my fellow veterans, colleagues, friends, y'all, and a special shout out there to my teammate, Tina Correa. Would you stand up, Tina? My name is Senator Michael Dodd Redd, and I represent the 33rd District of the Georgia Senate. Today we are gathered on this Korean War Armistice Day. We pause to remember our heroic service members who bravely served in a conflict that forever shaped our cultures and world. Their bravery and self-sacrifice have cemented ties that have withstood the test of time, as evidenced by our ongoing devotion to one another. My father, Harold Redd, was an Army combat soldier who served in the Korean War and was decorated with the Purple Heart. He inspired me to join the United States Air Force, and I made a career out of it and have made a long-standing quest on my behalf to make sure that the Korean population and our American population have a good relationship, working together and moving forward in the future. This day is a poignant reminder of our shared past, but equally it is an opportunity to celebrate the present and anticipate a bright future, a future which should be defined by continued collaboration and mutual growth between Georgia and South Korea. Our state has fostered a fruitful relationship with the Republic of Korea and established a bond that transcends shared history and paves the path for a joint future. Over 130 Korean companies have validated these ties by investing approximately $14.5 billion throughout Georgia, including $13 billion in total trade and $1 billion in exports to Korea during the fiscal year 2022, representing a 35% and 17% increase respectively from 2021. However, these economic undertakings are far more than just investment. They are both acts of trust and declaration of friendship and tangible facets that prove we are indeed stronger together. This strength is rooted in our mutual commitments to fundamental principles like democracy, freedom, and respect for human dignity. It also manifests in our united ambition for a world that is both safer and more prosperous. To honor this shared history and commitment to a blossoming future, I had the honor of sponsoring Senate Resolution 355 during the 2023 Georgia legislative session. This resolution commended the newly formed Senate American Korean Friendship Caucus and underscored the accomplishments between South Korea and Georgia. The caucus stands as a symbol of our intertwined past and as a beacon lighting the way for a future of shared values and economic prosperity. So as we reserve this Korean War Day, let us take a moment to honor the sacrifices made by our veterans, celebrate our shared values, and look to the future with optimism. The enduring friendship between the United States and the Republic of Korea is a symbol of cooperation, resilience, and shared prosperity that illuminates the path forward for other international partnerships to follow our lead. Today we gather to honor the past, embrace the opportunity to shape our shared future. Thank you for having me here today, and do not hesitate to reach out to my office if you need help. Don't forget Senator Red. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Red. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Kevin Miller, the Southeast Chapter President of the Korean Defense Veterans Association, for his remarks.
Annyeonghaseyo, and good morning. As President of the Korean Defense Veterans Association's Georgia chapter, it's an honor to have this opportunity to speak with you this morning in remembrance of our Korean War heroes. It's an honor to have this time with Sonny Park, General Ellis, General So, and our many, many dignitaries in the room. But more importantly, it's a distinct privilege to join our veterans and their family members in today's ceremony. In the early morning hours of 25 June 1950, thousands of foot soldiers accompanied Soviet-produced T-34 tanks across the 38th parallel and raced towards Seoul. Men and women from the United States and 21 other nations were soon called to service. They left their homes to defend people they never met in a country that very few had never heard of. Over the next 3 years, our Korean War veterans will be subjected to some of the most severe and brutal combat in the history of modern warfare. One only has to read accounts of the battles or hear stories to catch a glimpse of the hell that had descended on the peninsula. We will forever honor their service and sacrifice. I'm a former Army infantryman, a paratrooper, and I served north of the Imjin River at Camp Greaves in 1991 as a member of Bravo Company, 1st Battalion, 506 Infantry. Every man and woman in uniform that has served on the peninsula since the armistice was signed on 27 July 1953 has felt an obligation to those who had served before them. Our Korean War veterans saved the Republic of Korea and protected the Korean youth that would rebuild their nation from ruin. They were and are heroes. Each of us knew it was our responsibility to safeguard their sacrifice and try to serve as honorably as the example they had set. We felt a connection to the Korean War veterans, excuse me, who had walked the same trails, climbed the same mountains, and manned the same bunkers where we were serving. I've had the privilege to sit with many Korean War veterans over the years and hear their stories of service during the war. Places like Pusan Perimeter, Chosin Reservoir, and Port Chop Hill, to name a few. Their reflections of the sub-zero conditions, the battles up and down the peninsula, and the intense firefights from one hill to the next were always told to me with humility and never with bravado. They were humble, serving when they were called, and fighting for one another. On a recent trip to Seoul, my family and I toured the War Memorial Museum. This beautiful facility showcases the combined United Nations effort that successfully pushed back the flow of communism and preserved the Republic of Korea. The War Memorial is an extremely moving and a constant reminder that the citizens of South Korea will never forget those who came to their aid when their country was invaded. I always like to mention that I'm very thankful to the Republic of Korea for their immense efforts in ensuring the Korean War veterans are remembered. The Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs sponsors revisit Korea trips each year for Korean War veterans and their families. The honorees are flown back to South Korea and shown the beautiful country that their sacrifice provided. And this is not only for U.S. veterans, but for members of the other UN participating nations that committed troops during the war. They have never forgotten and have gone to great lengths to ensure the service of our Korean War veterans are never forgotten. During my trip, I also visited the Joint Security Area at Panmunjom on the military demarcation line. Since 1953, this armistice and the UN forces that enforce it has preserved peace on the peninsula, even in the face of continued North Korean aggression. Seeing this important place is a visual reminder of the division of the two Koreas and how a small cement line on the ground can be the difference between a life of prosperity and a life of oppression. In addition to KDVA, I also have the honor to serve as president of the Georgia Veterans Day Association. In recognition of this year's important milestone, excuse me, the official theme for 2023 is Korean War, Korea Defense, and the Rock-US Alliance, and honors all veterans who served on the peninsula during the war and the security operations since, and celebrates the 70th anniversary of the Rock-US Alliance. Our annual Veterans Day Parade, Observance Ceremony, and Freedom Ball will take place on November 11th. Join us on Veterans Day. Share your stories of service, share your culture, and come together in the spirit of the Rock-US Alliance. In closing, I want to speak directly to our Korean War veterans. You should never have to question the impact your service had on the world around you. Simply look at the Republic of Korea today. You preserved their nation, asserting a country of freedom for the generation that followed. Their miraculous growth into the 10th largest economy in the world is a testament to your sacrifice. South Koreans took your gift of freedom and became a country that no longer requires aid, but rather provides it to other nations in need as a true member of the international community. Your service enabled that to happen. From the Korean and American blood spilled on the battlefield, to standing shoulder to shoulder, defending freedom on the peninsula today, our two nations will always go together. Kachi kapshida. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks, Mr. Miller. This time it gives me great pleasure to invite our keynote speaker for this event, General Larry Ellis, former commander, U.S. Army Forces Command. Please give General Ellis a warm round of applause.
Thank you, Kevin. Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, on behalf of the American Korean Friendship Society and our chairman, Frank Blake, who's not here today, welcome to today's Armistice Day ceremony and luncheon. For a number of years, for as long as I can remember, and have been associated with the Korean American Friendship Society, it has organized and hosted an annual wreath-laying ceremony. Each year, the ceremony has been held in late July to remember and to honor Korean War veterans. July is important because, as you've heard here, it's the month that the guns went silent on the Korean Peninsula. And the armistice was signed 27 July 1953. I want to single out Mr. Sonny Park, who spoken, who has masterminded these ceremonies over a number of years, and a number of others who have labored. There's a bunch of others who've labored, Kevin and Tina, and I could go on, to ensure we never forget to remember and to honor our Korean veterans each July. I would ask, as you travel about, and I've seen it, I saw it in the program, that you pay special notice to selected billboards, in this case, north on I-85. Signs along the interstate highway here in Georgia, and several of our selected cities out in California and New York. But there's a billboard out there, and it's noted in your program. But those billboards has a message of thanks to our Korean War veterans. Mr. Sonny Park organized those billboard campaign to remind all Americans of your sacrifices and your contributions. So please take notice. I-85 North here in Atlanta, one in New York, one inside of Washington, D.C., one outside of San Francisco, and that's across the nation. That's quite an endeavor. Again, I too am honored to be part of today's ceremony and to be able to show my respect to those veterans who fought gallantly in the Korean War 70 years ago. So, my purpose this morning is twofold. First, I want to lead those present in saying thank you to our Korean War veterans for your sacrifices and to remember your courage and your dedication. Secondly, I want to thank those service members deployed to Korea now and around the globe for defending this nation and our freedoms. So just as you, the Korean War veterans, who have gone before them, they too are serving apart from their families and their loved ones. Today, I say thanks to every member of our armed forces for their service and sacrifices wherever they serve around the world. The Korean War was a real struggle between freedom and oppression, and between justice and tyranny. It was this war where the forces from South Korea, the United States, and our allies proved to the world that we would not stand by while North Korea invaded the peaceful Republic of South Korea. The alliance in South Korea that we know today exists because of your sacrifices. Our nations, all of them, all of the sending nations, pay tribute to those who gave their all by remaining a force of freedom around the world. If you've not had the opportunity, and then I would highly recommend that you visit what I call the newly dedicated Korean Memorial in Washington. There's a bag that's being handed to you. And it was dedicated last year, this very week, in Washington. And at that memorial, the names of Americans and Katusas, Korean augmentees to the United States Army, they're still called Katusas. Mr. Sonny Park was a Katusa. But those soldiers, their names are engraved at that monument. It is the only memorial on the mall in Washington where the names of American soldiers and foreign soldiers are displayed together in that Korean memorial. So I really would encourage you, if you get the opportunity to go to Washington. I know many of you have seen the old memorial. You have to see the newly dedicated memorial. And thanks to the Korean government for its support in putting that together. But I really would recommend you get the opportunity to see that. Without a doubt, though, there was a partnership forged between Koreans and Americans, and it's grown into one of the strongest alliances in the world, and you've heard that here today. The cooperation between our countries has enabled Korea to develop into a peaceful and prosperous nation with one of the largest economies and one of the absolute best militaries in the world. And they have fought beside the American soldiers in every war since, to include Vietnam, where I served. So today, here in Atlanta, we have the privilege of honoring you, our Korean War veterans, and your families. Today, we pay tribute to you. We owe you a great deal. We owe you our gratitude. And this day, especially, we owe you our liberty. So, let us remember those veterans who laid down their lives on the Korean Peninsula in defense of freedom for people they had never met. Let us also remember those living veterans who are here with us today. And let us never forget their bravery, their sacrifice, and the legacy that they have left to us and to all free peoples. I would ask you Korean veterans, and you've been recognized, I'm going to ask you to raise your hands again. I'm not going to ask you to stand because I know how difficult that gets these days. But I'm going to ask you to just raise your hand again. Thank you for raising your hands. So, as we all know, the Korean War is too often called the forgotten war. But it will never be forgotten by these veterans sitting right here. Those who raised their hands will never be forgotten by their families and their loved ones. They carry those scars every day. Again, I want to personally thank each of you for answering the call of duty. You are an integral part of a solid foundation that has made this nation, America, and our armed forces the most respected armed forces in the world. We built the foundation from what you did, built on that foundation. So on this special day, we honor and respect your service as true American patriots. I salute you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you, General Ellis, for those remarks. At this point, I'd like to take this moment to invite Mr. Norman Ward, President of the Ray Davis Chapter of Korean War Veterans Association.
Well, I'd like to say good morning to all of you. I think you have gone all out to recognize the veterans, and I want you to know that we all appreciate that. I have a question. Is there any veteran here that was in Korea on July the 27th, 1953? Oh, okay, so you well remember. Well, I had quite an experience. I was in the Chosin Reservoir with the 1st Marine Division. I was there on the night of November the 27th when the Chinese attacked. I am been blessed because I survived it. But the Marines lost 3,000, over 3,000 killed, 6,000 wounded. The Marines were, if you may remember, they asked General O.P. Smith, was he retreating? And he supposedly said, hell, we're attacking to the rear. So, made it back to Hungnam. Unfortunately, my squad, who was headed by a sergeant who was a explosive expert, got picked to go back up because General Allman had flown over in a Piper Cub and saw a supply area about 35 miles up that he said needed to be destroyed. So we got picked to do that. We drew rations, sea rations for 2 days. They took us up one morning. We're going to come back and get us the end of the second day. They never came. They deserted us. And a sergeant decided the following morning we were going to walk out. And that was quite an experience. We ran out of food. We had no food except what may have been left over from the sea rations. Along about the 4th or 5th day, we saw smoke coming out of our house. Surrounded the house and went in, and there was 2 older ladies there with 3 little babies, maybe around 3, 5, and 7. This has always been a great regret for me, and I've asked the good Lord to forgive me for what we did. We took the only bag of rice they had, and we lived off of that rice until we arrived back at Hungnam. Now, most of the Marines were evacuated on the 10th, 11th, and 12th from Hungnam. We got back there on the 21st. There was no space for us. No ships were there to go. Finally, they put us aboard a Japanese LST that had taken on refugees, and we were allowed in the tank deck where they had taken on supplies. But at least we had more sea rations to eat. We thought maybe we were going to Japan, but we ended up going to Busan. And we got, I remember right next to the General Nelson H. Walker, an Army transport that unloaded. Sergeant went aboard, convinced the captain to let us come by and take a bath and sleep. The bad news was we had to put back on those stinking old dirty clothes we had. But the next morning, we looked out and there was a Western Union service there. So we went to the service union. Somebody came up with the idea. Most of our parents think we're dead. Why don't we send them a telegram? So we went in, but they wouldn't let us do it because we didn't have any money. So we decided, or at least our sergeant decided, tonight we're going to visit one of these warehouses. So long after it got dark, and remember, it's December now, so it got dark around 5 o'clock. So we went in and busted the lock, went in and stole soap and charms. Charms were like lifesavers, but they were square. Sold them on the black market. Got enough money to send telegrams home. The telegram arrived at my house by a Western Union man dressed like they used to dress, in a uniform with high boots. He rang my doorbell. My father went to the door, my mother followed him. And as soon as she saw the Western Union man, she screamed and hollered. But anyway, to make a long story, I have that telegram. She saved it for me. I had pushed. I wanted to also say, on the way out, walking one morning at about just at daybreak, we were walking around a railroad track that went south, parallel to the road. And as we went around, there was a 90-degree bend. In front of us was about 40, 50 Chinese. All seemed to be smoking. And it was about just after daybreak. They looked at us. We looked at them. Nobody made a move. Sergeant said, "Don't turn around, but back up, back up." So we backed up, ran like hell, up, across the road, down, and further south. But anyway, it was a hell of an experience from a kid that just got out of high school in June and was in Korea in November, and I got left. I got out in December. I was out because of a senator from Maine, Margaret Chase Smith, who had introduced a resolution in Congress that if you spent the first Christmas inside in Korea, you would not have to spend number 2. So I got out, and sometime around the 1st of December, and flown to Japan. When we got to Japan, we still had on those wonderful, dirty, filthy, stinking clothes. They made us strip. They gave us pills for worms, they sprayed us, and they gave us a hot shower, and they gave us all new clothes, including shoes and socks and everything. So it was an experience for a young kid that I'll never forget. And I never forget the sacrifices that so many made. Out of my high school class that had joined the Marines like me, 7 of them were killed. And I thank the Lord, and I never forget how lucky I was. I bless all of you. I thank you for recognizing us. And may God bless each and every one of you. And I would also like to congratulate the new Consul General. Welcome. We're glad to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Darrell Whiting from the Gainesville chapter of the Korean War Veterans Association for his remarks and response.
Well, I feel kind of like the fella that entered his donkey in the Kentucky Derby. And everybody said, well, you're not going to do any good, are you? No, but the donkey's going to meet a lot of good people. I guess that nobody got that one. I just want to say a few things. And one of the things, I'm in Gainesville, Georgia. We had at one time about 30 members. We're probably down to 4 or 5 that are active now. But many years ago, in about 2011, we decided to put a monument up in the Rock Creek Veterans Park, which is a park in Gainesville. And we went around and raised money. We raised about $12,000 and kind of hit a hard spot, so we decided maybe we'll build a small memorial. Well, we thought maybe there's some Korean people, Korean American people that might like to get involved. And I wrote a letter to a couple of the different manufacturers, and they really weren't set up to help at that time. So I looked at a church on Pleasant Hill, Korean church of Pleasant Hill, and I called, and a little girl answered, and I told her what we were looking for. Maybe somebody would like to help us, and she said, "You got to call Sonny Park." Well, I called Sonny Park, and the next thing we knew, he was coming to Gainesville to the park. He had the TV, Korean TV, the Korean radio, the Korean newspaper, and they just came as a group. And Sonny, the first thing he said, "You need a bigger memorial. The one you're building is too small. It's got to be at least the size of the Vietnam one, maybe even bigger." We said, "Well, we've been trying to do something." He said, "Don't worry about any more collecting money. We'll take care of it." And that's how we met Sonny Park in the Good Neighbors Society. Well, anyway, we went ahead and built a beautiful monument. And then for dedication, Sonny and the same group came for the dedication. And ever since that time, we've been attending this annual ceremony. And it's been a beautiful thing for us. We've been down to the Capitol and that little French restaurant. And this was a wise move, I think, because a lot of us are getting to the point where it's hard to spend too much time and what have you. But anyway, we got a check in the mail from a fellow by the name of Charlie Sue. And we'll never forget Charlie. He and his wife, $9,500, just wrote a check and sent it to us. And it was just such a thrill to know that there were some people out there that really, really cared. And we had probably 5 of our guys were Chosun Reservoir people and combat veterans. Like I said, a good share of them are gone now, but we are kind of like the a generation of men and women in our 80s and 90s. We're slowing down, and General MacArthur said, "Old soldiers never die, they just fade away." And I just want to thank Sonny and all of you other people from South Korean American people, and you've been blessing us. But I ask God to bless you in a mighty way. And thank you. Semper Fi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Whiting. So now, at this time in the program, we'll be doing the wreath-laying ceremony that was outlined by Mr. Park earlier. As I call your organization, please send a representative up to the front of the room to stand by the wreath that your organization has provided. So we'll start with the Republic of Korea. Please come up to the front. The Korean War Veterans Association of Raymond Davis Atlanta Chapter. The Korean War Veterans Association Gainesville Chapter. The Federation of Korean Associations of the Southeast United States. The Korean American Association of Greater Atlanta. The Korean Defense Veterans Association. The USO Korea. The Chu Family Foundation. And the American Korean Friendship Society.
Let me stand next to my buddy. Thank you.
you so much. At this moment, we'd like to take a brief moment of silence. May I ask that you all please bow your heads for a moment of silence. Thank you all very much. You may be seated. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, if I could ask please, could turn around and face. Their chairs are empty, but save for their hoped return. Let us remember the men and women prisoners of war from all branches of service that are too often forgotten. Let us remember them. They cannot toast with us today. Maybe tomorrow, if we remember. Remember, as we look upon this empty table, do not remember ghosts from the past. Remember our comrades. Remember those whom we depended on in battle. They depend on us to bring them home. Remember our friends. They are the ones we love, who love life and freedom as we do. They remember what we do. Please honor and remember them.
Lieutenant attached to First British Division, 1952-1953, and when armistice was signed, I was there. I was attached to Field Marshal's office, First British Division, where the base camp in Munsan, where the guarded out to Panmunjom to sign the armistice agreement. They wonder how the soldiers felt when the armistice was signed. There are many stories, but what I witnessed, I tell you, they were delighted because unless armistice was signed, they would be sent to the front again, and their chance to be killed is very high. Particularly on the right side of Panmunjom, there's a hook hill, very small hill, 300 yard high, where First British Division were to guard, because they really had to prevent the Chinese coming through Panmunjom to the Indian River to Seoul, and they assigned First British Division to guard there. And my friend, number of friends were killed there. So most of us at that time, when I was with them, was the Marines. They were just delighted because they're not going to be killed. That's one reason they were really delighted. But at the same time, they were sorry. They sacrificed so much for the entire 3 years, and everything is going to be just stand still. The objective will not be accomplished. Although they felt sad about it, at the same time, they were just delighted because their chance to be killed is no longer true. And they were planning to go back to the state, and most of them are planning some of them professional soldierly life, but most of them go back to their civilian life and ensure peaceful life. Although the armistice agreement was signed to the Chinese and North Korean stop at the DMZ. DMZ is practically same as a 30 parallel. In my view, that good thing happened because it deterred the communists coming down south. And subsequent to the agreement, there's the 8th Army and U.S. forces. They were able to deter the communists coming down south. That's the main the functions of U.S. as well as the Korean forces fighting substantially, and they succeeded deterrence. And that did not happen in Vietnam, but only in Korea we were able to stop them. And Armistice Agreement was a good instrument to stop them. And for that, Armistice Agreement, it could seem to happen. That's what I feel. Thank you.